A ceasefire between Israel and Hamas came into effect in the early hours of this morning. Now, to talk to us about the latest development and to give us insight as to what is the current mood like in Gaza, we join on the line by our guest, who is from the Middle East Monitor Gaza correspondent, speaking to us live from Gaza, Mu'tasim Dalal, who joins us. Mu'tasim, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
The news the world has received this morning, and it is somewhat comforting to hear that there has been a truce that has been put in place, that has been brokered by Egypt. We also received news that the people of Gaza were celebrating in the early hours of the morning. Perhaps you could take us through what has transpired yesterday evening, through the night, and into the early hours of this morning.
Egyptian authority brokered the truce, mutual ceasefire between the Palestinian resistance and the Israeli occupation. Cairo informed the Palestinian resistance yesterday at 10 o'clock in the evening that the truce is to take effect on 2 a.m. Friday at dawn. And that happened at 2 a.m. Both sides stopped firing at each other. The Palestinian resistance stopped firing after the Israeli occupation stopped firing rockets and bombing the Gaza Strip. The Israeli occupation stopped the artillery shelling and the air strikes. And then the Palestinian resistance stopped firing missiles in defense against the Israeli areas. Alhamdulillah, since 2 a.m., everything is okay. Quiet is prevailing, and no new fighting. But this came after 11 days of fighting, which which resulted into 232 martyrs, including 65 children, 39 women, 17 elderly people, and wounded 1,900 people, including 90 in critical conditions, 500 in the upper extremities of their bodies, 155 in the heads and necks, 506 children, 380 women, 91 elderly people. This also, the ceasefire came after 11 days. During these 11 days, more than 12 entire families were wiped out of the civil records, including nuclear and extended families. The Israeli occupation bombed their homes without prior warnings while they were asleep, so that most of the members of these families were killed. More than 120,000 citizens were internally displaced due to the continuous Israeli bombing of their homes and neighborhoods. About 50,000 of them were took shelter in UN-run schools.
Yes. When we look at some of the headlines, then it reads that the Palestinian people were celebrating the ceasefire. So why is it celebrated? Why is this considered as a moment of happiness for the people of Gaza?
The first thing is that it is a celebration. It is normally a celebration when the fighting between two sides stop. This is normally. But today, the Palestinians celebrated the ceasefire because they felt that the Palestinian resistance achieved a victory against the Israeli occupation. The Palestinian resistance with the primary missiles made of primary material helped the resistance to achieve victory against one of the countries with the largest armies in the world and the most equipped and heavily equipped armies in the world. The Palestinian resistance won the battle against the Israeli occupation with the primitive missiles against the Israeli occupation, tanks, jets, warplanes, drones, F-35 warplanes. The Palestinians who are besieged in the Gaza Strip for about 15 years won the battle against the Israeli occupation, which is backed by all the international community. On top of them, the United States and the Western powers. So that the Palestinians celebrated the end of the fighting as a victory. The Palestinians also celebrated the end of the ceasefire as a victory because the Israeli occupation stopped harassing the Palestinian worshippers who are going to Al-Aqsa Mosque, and stopped its attempts to expel the families, the Palestinian families from Jerusalem's neighborhood, Sheikh Jarrah, so that the Palestinians are really celebrating a victory because of all of these reasons.
Alhamdulillah, we certainly hope that it will hold in place, inshallah, and what is in the interest of the people of Gaza will come to be. What next for the people of Gaza? How do they start rebuilding? Obviously, a lot of infrastructure has been damaged. As you indicated, families have been wiped out. Children have lost their lives. People have lost loved ones. Where to from here for the people of Gaza?
In fact, it will take much time to rebuild what was destroyed during the 11 days of fighting because of the siege. The first thing, the siege imposed on the Gaza Strip by the Israeli occupation, backed by the Arab and the international community. And the second reason is that there is much damage in schools, government offices, civil infrastructure, including water, electricity, telecommunication networks, and streets and schools. You know that 1,447 homes and residential buildings were partially or completely destroyed. More than 30 media offices were destroyed. About 80 government institutions and offices were destroyed. Up to 68 schools were totally damaged. 24 medical care centers were damaged, including the headquarters of the Ministry of Health. Hundreds of dozens of planted farmland were destroyed. More than 300 economic and commercial facilities were damaged. 70 tourist sites. So that these things take much time to be rebuilt and rehabilitated. The other reason, which is the most important reason, is that the money. Gaza, has been under a siege for about 15 years, so that its economy is collapsed, is dilapidating, so that it needs external support to rebuild these things, so that Egypt pledged to pay $500 million, but I think that this money will not go through to Gaza easily. I don't know how this will happen, but maybe this pledge was made by Egypt in order to stop or to prevent, to undermine other countries like Qatar, and Kuwait and Turkey from pledging to pay for the rebuilding of the Gaza Strip. This is an attempt by Egypt, backed by the USA and Israel, to slow the process of rebuilding the Gaza Strip, because
Yes.
Egypt, initially Egypt doesn't have money. Egypt
Yes.
is a very poor country and doesn't have money to pay for its own facilities and its own people. So that where it will bring this money, I don't know. But I think that this is political money aimed to slow the rebuilding the Gaza Strip.
Yes, certainly. Mu'tasim, Jazakumullah khair for the update. We make dua on this blessed day of Jummah. That Allah Rabbul Izzah keep the people of Gaza safe and grant them ease and comfort. Barakallah fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu.